Bettor Sports Betting is your home for picks, props, and futures for tonight's action. Bettor Sports Betting wants to know what picks you're playing tonight. Tell us in the live chat on YouTube, Twitter, and the Bettor Sports Network app. This is Bettor Sports Betting with Fantasy Alarm's Dan Servodidio.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome in here to the Bettor Sports Betting Show on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm, YouTube's, the BSN app, Twitter, wherever you guys are tuning in from. We appreciate you joining here on a Thursday afternoon. I am Dan Servodidio. Got James Grande here with me as usual on Thursdays. What's up, man? How you doing?
What's going on? Happy Thursday. Some nice football going on tonight with Packers Lions. We got college football. We got baseball. We're like hockey's in striking distance. Basketball preseason next week.
Yeah.
I mean, we go from like August where it's just baseball and it's like really like the end of baseball, and we're like, please bring us something else, to like everything just all piled on at once. So great time to be alive here, Servo. Great time to be alive. Great time to be on the show here on Thursday.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you back on Thursdays. Talking some, Thursday night football. We got a nice divisional matchup in the NFC North, Lions, Packers tonight. So we'll be giving out some betting picks and some player props for that game coming up tonight. I'll throw to you for some baseball picks because I'm not totally glued in, but I know you'll give out a couple picks for us because the wild card races are still very much up in the air right now. So definitely will have an impact on some of the picks we got for tonight. And then, college football Saturday, another good slate. Not as good as last week with a lot of like top 25 matchups last week, but still got some very interesting games and some lines. And so I'll give out some betting picks for that one for Saturday's games. Coming up later in the show. Got to start out though with the week 5 or the week 4 kickoff tonight in the NFL. It's Lions Packers. We got the I think that spread is just a little off, by the way. Our producer, I think the Lions are favored -2 and the over under is at 45.5. The Lions actually, I'm gonna 2.5 is now the spread on DraftKings. I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's moved.
Yeah, moving a little bit. It was just like 1.5 a couple days ago. So a little bit of money coming in on the Lions here. But the 45.5 is the over under there for the game. Let's start out with our top picks here. We'll get into some props and some game bets here. What is your top pick for tonight?
So the Detroit Lions getting running back David Montgomery back tonight, Servo.
Yeah.
So I'm really liking what I've seen from Monty so far in a Lions uniform. So I'm gonna go over 45.5 rushing yards, -115 over on DraftKings Sportsbook. And look, we've seen in the first 2 games, he obviously didn't play in week 3. He was the bell cow in this backfield. He saw 21 carries in week 1. He played 80% of the snaps. And then week 2, where he didn't play nearly as many snaps, but that game was very high paced. There was a ton of points scored. And although Jahmyr Gibbs still outsnapped him 45-48, Montgomery had 16 carries for 67 yards to Gibbs' 7. And Gibbs, he showed his, pedigree in the passing game, but Monty's 2 for 2 on this over. There's no reason to think that he doesn't immediately vault back into the lead bell cow role when he's proven to not only be their RB1 on the ground. If you remember last year in Chicago and the few years prior, why isn't Khalil Herbert playing? Well, David Montgomery was one of the highest rated pass blocking running backs in the league. So a guy who is churning out, 37 carries through 2 games, and he's an elite pass blocker for Jared Goff. He's going to stay on the field, and they're going to use Jahmyr Gibbs in other ways. So I love going right back to this rushing yard prop. He smashed it twice in a row. And Green Bay, for what it's worth, has been a bad defensive team against the run. So give me David Montgomery over 45.5 rushing yards.
I like that call because I don't think they'd bring him back, especially on like a Thursday night game. If they didn't think that he was ready to handle a workload here. And I know Jahmyr Gibbs starting to get some more work last week, but that was because Montgomery was out. So
Right.
Yeah, I think that he will be getting involved here. We got a Mulroyd in the chat here saying, didn't Campbell say they were going to give the ball more to Gibbs prior to Monty getting hurt? I feel like he might get more involved in the passing game, but as long as they have Montgomery, he's as he showed. You outlined the first 2 weeks when he was healthy, but in that week 1 game against the Chiefs, they rode him on the ground to an upset. I mean, it was. He was churning out 4 or 5 yards a carry most times he was touching the ball. So maybe they start to get Gibbs more involved, but as long as like Montgomery is healthy and they know that he can handle 15 to 20 touches, then why not? So I'd lean to the Montgomery props rather than Gibbs, at least for the rushing wise. I do think Gibbs could get some more catches this week, but we'll see. My pick, I guess kind of in the line with you, because I do think that the Lions are going to lean on the ground game here. I think the Packers, we'll see if Aaron Jones is back. He's trending towards being back, so we'll see if he is active or not. But I think either way, they're going to try to lean on the ground game too. And I think this is going to be an under. I'm grabbing the under at 45.5. Seeing it's down at 45 some places, but whatever you can get it at. Night game unders, by the way, 9-2 to start this season to the under. And it's a trend that's actually gone back to last year. 49-24 to the under are night games. Since 2019, by the way, 60% of these night games have gone under. So it's just kind of a trend that I'm going to go with here, because I see a total that's, it's not at like 40 or something. I think 45 or lower is a good time to get the under, because I think it's a game where, divisional matchup. Packers have started well to start the season, Lions too, but I think both teams are going to really try to gear up defensively. Just in the fact that it's a Thursday night game, I feel like these games are trending towards the under usually. I think your Montgomery prop can hit, but the Lions do have a good amount of injuries on the offensive line. They got 2 starters out, Vaitai and Nelson. Already ruled out, and then Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson are also questionable, might play, might not play. I think that hurts just overall the Lions offense. The Packers too have a couple of injuries on the line. Bakhtiari and Elgin Jenkins are both out. And also their tackle Zach Tom is questionable. I think that's an issue against the Lions defense, especially if Aiden Hutchinson off the side, if Zach Tom is out there, right tackle. So I think that it's going to be a defensive slog here. I'll gladly back the trends of these night games going under, because it's just more often than not, we just see, more defensive strength here. And one of those night games that went under was, the Lions on that Thursday Night Football to start the season. So.
Yeah, Packers just placed Bakhtiari on the IR too.
Yeah, so definitely out. I just think, and the other thing to look at is Jordan Love and the Packers overall, their red zone touchdown percentage, it's at close to 80% this season. They've had a lot of success in the red zone. Give credit to them, but there's regression coming to there. I just think tonight could be one of those instances where the Lions now have tape on Love and what he likes in the red zone. Are going to be looking to limit that. So, going with the under here.
I do think there's regression, but also it should be noted that Christian Watson making his debut and how many touchdowns he was able to score last year. He was a threat every time he touched the ball. And the fact that they're getting Aaron Jones back. I mean, we saw Jones week 1, 84 receiving yards to go along with his decent work on the ground. And I just wanted to make one more point to the Mulroyd comment. Campbell said that after week 1, where he's like, yeah, we're going to start getting Gibbs more involved. And then Monty still out-touched him on the ground 16-7. So it wasn't I think we all are aware, they went up to get Gibbs probably at a spot that nobody else was going to draft Jahmyr Gibbs, right? I mean, Servo, as the resident draft coverage specialist at Fantasy Alarm, you were probably shocked by going up to get Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. So naturally the thought is, Jahmyr Gibbs over time is going to, but he has, we saw him step in. He looked good for Monty. But as you mentioned, if Detroit is missing people on the offensive line, they're going to lean heavily on Monty in this game in the backfield because he's such a good pass protector. He is going to be on the field more than they have a rookie running back who, is kind of undersized to begin with. So I think we're going to see a lot of Monty. And if we're seeing a lot of Gibbs, I think we do see kind of like that similar week 2 output where he has 7 catches and 9 targets and something similar to that, to your point that you just made.
Yeah. And also, I mean, we'll see how the rest of the season goes, and especially, starting tonight, but there's a chance like Campbell was probably feeling some heat about, like, oh, you guys drafted him 12th overall and he got how many touches to start the season. So maybe this was one of those things he wanted to say to get some, reporter heat off of him. But so we'll see how that shakes out. Also, I mean, to your Montgomery prop, I mean, they, the passing protection is one thing for him to be on the field more, but also just like if there's these O-line injuries, Montgomery being the bigger back can churn out, yards after contact and take on a few guys and get those tough yards, where Gibbs is more of the shiftier guy. He is probably a better chance of, getting tackled behind the line or right at the line of scrimmage rather than Montgomery probably getting 2 or 3 yards more. So yeah, just something to keep an eye on. Yeah. The Watson injury, also just something to keep an eye on because, also like Aaron Jones trending towards playing, but still questionable. So we'll see if these guys are active, before kickoff. All right. Any other, props you got going?
Yeah. I'm going to stick with David Montgomery. And I think I have one touchdown call tonight, and it's David Montgomery getting into the end zone, plus money over on DraftKings. Look, in the first 2 weeks, when you look over some red zone data, some red zone data can be skewed because you look at it, you're like, oh, well, inside the 20, doesn't mean a lot. But we started getting closer, and in 2 weeks, he had 3 attempts within the 10-yard line. He had an attempt inside the 5-yard line, and they scored a touchdown on that run. Then you think back of Ben Johnson's offense. They are not a tush-push team, and you firsthand know the most of anybody about the tush-push because you invented it.
Why aren't more teams tush-push, though?
I could not agree. I could not agree more. Also, like, not everyone has an athletic freak like Jalen Hurts.
I don't know if Jared Goff's really the tush-push guy.
Yeah, like, I don't think Jared Goff is a tush-push guy. He seems more like a tush-fumble guy than he would a tush-push guy. Like, he's probably closer to Mark Sanchez than he is Jalen Hurts in terms of, like, which tush, the push or the fumble. But we saw firsthand in the Ben Johnson offense last year what happens with the big back. And so Adam Bernard, I just caught a stray there. Our producer, he just caught a stray, and he had to let us know.
Jets fans are like, "Come on, this is an NFC North game. How are you bringing the Jets into this?"
Well, Jets fans can always catch strays no matter what. Yeah. We're talking football. When we're talking ball, like, Jets fans catch strays. But we saw firsthand in this Ben Johnson offense led by Jared Goff what happens in the red zone. If they are within the 5-yard line, Jamal Williams scored 14 touchdowns last year. He had 30-something carries within the 5-yard line. That's the objective for the Lions. Like, yes, they have Amon St. Brown who can work in tight spaces, and they now have the addition of Sam Laporta. But it's just the Ben Johnson MO through a year and some change. They're going to get in the red zone, use their offensive line to push and get in with their big back. So I like Montgomery to score a touchdown tonight. I know you picked the under. I'm on the fence about it.
You can still score and hit the under.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, in general, like, when I was thinking about touchdown props, like, as a whole, I was, like, thinking, man, I really like what Green Bay's getting back. But I think that this is going to be a run-dominant game that Green Bay needs to throw later in the game, and Montgomery's going to get this done nice and early for us in one of the first couple possessions. So I'm going right back to another David Montgomery anytime touchdown.
Yeah, I like it. Week 2, I threw out Jahmyr Gibbs anytime touchdown because I saw in week 1 he had that run where he kind of tripped up himself, where he had like a sure touchdown off to the edge against the Chiefs, but he tripped and fell. The next play, they bring in David Montgomery, hand it off, and he runs in for the touchdown. So I think that's like a something that could happen easily because it's like, all right, we'll give Gibbs the chance, but we know Montgomery can kind of get in here. Listen, the under, I mean, we could still have, 6 touchdowns happen in this game for the under to still cash. So, All right. One of my picks, go to the Packers side of things. I like Jaden Reed's receiving yards over, got it 35.5 over on FanDuel. He's been over this in all 3 games so far. The rookie out of Michigan State's been really coming up in this Packers offense. He's at 48, 37, and 63. That 63 was last week when he had a highlight reel catch too in that game. He's been developing into a nice rapport with Jordan Love. I know Romeo Doubs is there. Luke Musgrave too showing out, but they're more of like kind of the safer underneath guys. I think we'll see if Watson plays too. That might hurt Jaden Reed's involvement, but Jaden Reed is still kind of like one of those big play threats, and he only needs a couple catches to get over this yards total. And I see this Lions matchup. They shut down the Falcons last week. The defense did. But the week before, they allowed 37 points and a ton of yards to Seattle. 328 passing yards in that game too. Had multiple receivers go for 30 plus receiving yards, 75 for Metcalf, 59 for Lockett. In week 1, 2 Chiefs receivers had 45 plus receiving yards in that game, but also we saw a ton of drops from the Chiefs receivers, so it could have been a lot more. So I think Reed is primed to get, the 35.5 is kind of low. I think it should be probably around 40 because of how good he has been to start the season. I know Watson has been out, but I still think, the connection that Love has clearly started to develop here with Jaden Reed should not go overlooked. So give me the over on Jaden Reed's receiving yards.
Yeah, and you look at to your point about Jaden Reed, snaps that he's played, week 1, 53, week 2, 56, week 3, 66. Like, it's only getting better as the rapport builds. So
yeah, and as a rookie, you'd expect it to start maybe a little low, but it's clear that he's gaining trust with the coaching staff, with the offense overall. And he leads the team right now in receiving yards. Again, Watson has been out, but still, I think that says something.
I love that, Servo, because I have a play directly correlated to that, and it's Romeo Doubs under 40.5 receiving yards. And it definitely has to do, not that Jaden Reed isn't baked in here, because he is, if he's going to continue to see 50. Look, there's now going to be, we're going to find out what's happening, right, with Green Bay, because Christian Watson is their number 1 receiver when he's at full strength. Like, he proved that last year. Romeo Doubs was good at times, but I think he was very inconsistent last year. He was banged up. And Jaden Reed has burst onto the scene. So has Luke Musgrave. So we're going to see at full strength what this Packers offense looks like. We can't also ignore that both running backs out of the backfield are very serviceable catching passes. But when you look at Romeo Doubs, like, he has gone over this once in his first 3 games. But last year, with a better quarterback, and we're talking about Aaron Rodgers, 4 out of the 13 games he played, he went over. There was twice where he didn't catch a single pass in a game that he received targets in. And he's not exactly a guy who stretches the field like a Christian Watson or a Jaden Reed. Just 10 yards per reception last year. I liked Romeo Doubs coming into the year if Christian Watson was hurt, and I like the DFS aspect from it, but I just don't think we're gonna get that big of a game here. I know the 12 targets last week suggests that maybe things are a little different, but with Watson being back, with the fact that he isn't someone who really stretches the field that much, I'm gonna go under 40.5 yards. For Romeo Doubs as more of a possession guy for Green Bay. And I just don't think we're going to see nearly the same volume, because you also factor in Detroit's been bad against tight ends this year so far. So Luke Musgrave is going to get a lot of attention. And I know a lot of people are on his props today. He's a very hot commodity in the fantasy industry. And you get Watson back, and Aaron Jones. What if Green Bay gets out to lead? Now we're talking about a dual-headed monster. There's just a lot of factors taking me off the Romeo Doubs bandwagon this year.
Yeah, and if Watson is back, I think that takes away just the outside receiver opportunities for Doubs. Whereas, Jaden Reed is more in the slot. Musgrave, obviously, from the tight end position. So yeah, I think Watson being back would hurt Dobbs more than Reed and Musgrave. So yeah, I think the Musgrave props are interesting as well. But I do think the under on Dobbs, because he could catch still. I mean, he could catch 4 passes in this game, but still finish under
Right.
40.5 receiving yards if he has some underneath catches there. All right, another pick I like, going the defensive angle. I've been looking at these defensive guys ever since our producer, Adam Bernard, threw out a defensive prop, I think in week 1 or 2. I've been looking at it each week to see whether there's some value, and Brian Branch is the guy I'm looking at here. 5.5 tackles and assists. Take the over there at -140 on BetMGM. The Lions, we talked about the injuries in the offensive side, but on defense, their top 2 safeties are out. Well, Kirby Joseph is questionable. We'll see if he is out. He was out last game, but CJ Gardner-Johnson is out. And last week, Branch moved into, from the nickel corner spot, he went over to one of those safety spots, and he had 11 tackles, all solo tackles too. Playing up on the line as like a run stuffer, playing, covering guys as a, still in that nickel corner spot, but playing a lot of the strong safety role. We'll see if Kirby Joseph is back, but I still think Branch is going to be used a lot, especially as like a run stuffer guy up in the box with Jones and Dillon for the Packers. So, and I do think Jones being back gives the Packers probably more focus on the ground game, as I mentioned earlier. So I think that gives more tackle opportunities to guys like Branch and some of the linebackers. But yeah, I'm looking at Branch. I think the 5.5 is low because we don't know what the situation is with Kirby Joseph. And, we saw Branch only play in that safety spot last week. He was in the nickel corner spot, played like less than 70% of the snaps in weeks 1 and 2. But last week he played 100% of the defensive snaps as one of their safeties. So I think the injuries kind of are forcing his hand as a rookie to be more involved, and especially as a run stopper and a tackler.
I love that. We're getting a guy who played 100% of the snaps, who had 2x the prop that is being given in just solo tackles.
And again, it was against a Falcons team that we know loves to run the football with Bijan and Algier. And I think I assume Aaron Jones is going to play. He's been trending towards that all week, and I think if him and AJ Dillon back, we're going to see a lot of tackle opportunities here for the Lions.
Fully agree. Couldn't agree more, actually. Couldn't agree more if I tried, Servo.
It's good vibes.
Good vibes. No, I don't have, it's just, no CJ, GJ. It's, this is clear cut. I know that.
We all saw what CJ did in week 1 against the Chiefs. He was all over the place, and that's Branch now. I mean, he's got to fill that void. Our producer, Adam Bernard,
that's a crappy loss.
Producer Adam Bernard saying he loves that prop too. So yes, I got 2 nods of approval from my co-hosts and producers there. What else you got for this game?
So I like the Lions to win outright. So I got the Lions on the money line. They're a good football team. I think the jury's still out on Green Bay. Like, Jordan Love's thrown the most. He has the most misses amongst quarterbacks for open receivers. Like, he can't do that against good teams, and I think Detroit is that. We saw, they beat the defending champs on opening night, and no Travis Kelce, obviously, and you already highlighted all the drops issues. That was a very weird. It was just a weird game. Yeah. But they also scored 31 against Seattle. Seattle can be a good offense, and they just demolished Atlanta, who had been rolling themselves coming into that game. So I really like the Lions in this spot. I think they're going to control this game on the ground. I know Green Bay is probably as healthy as it's been, at least in the skill positions as they've been all year. But I think that the Lions go on the road, and the Green Bay. This is a big test for Green Bay. I mean, you look at the schedule. Yeah, they beat the Bears, but the Bears are one of the 3 probably worst teams in football right now, and their quarterback that everyone loved might not be their quarterback next year. And they beat the Saints in a nice comeback, but sans Derek Carr and Jameis Winston was on the field in that game. I think the jury is still out on Green Bay. Give me the Lions in this game.
Yeah, I stayed away from a pick in this game. Just again, I went with that under for the full game, but I do think I was leaning the Lions here because I feel like the Packers have been just kind of overvalued this year, and
Yes.
I mentioned Jordan Love probably going to see some regression at some point. They've been really good in the red zone, and the trend of I don't have it in front of me right now the exact stats, but the trend of home teams on Thursday Night Football actually isn't that great over the last couple years. It's the road teams that surprisingly have the advantage, whether it's straight up or against the spread. So, and this money line, you got it at minus 130. It's already moving more in the Lions' direction, as we mentioned, minus 142 right now, minus 2.5 on the spread. So it looks like more and more money is coming on the Lions to get this win to kick off week 4. So good call on that to get it at minus 130 too. All right, so those are some of our picks for tonight. If you got any of your own, by the way, throw it in the chat and we'll touch on them as long as we're live here on the show. Again, keep an eye out for the injury news coming out before kickoff, an hour and a half before kickoff. See if guys like Watson and Aaron Jones are in there for Green Bay ahead of this game. And by the way, for tonight, as we do always for Thursday night football games, we are gamifying Thursday night football on the BettorCast app. So join the BettorCast app. Go download it with that QR code right there. Go download it for free in the Apple app or Google Play stores right now. You can join the BettorCast for this Lions-Packers game tonight at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Predict what will happen. Test your knowledge with all these pregame questions on props, over-unders, who will score next, all the big plays throughout the game. Real-time questions popping up there too. No purchase or subscription is necessary. It's always free to play. You can win tickets based on those questions. The more you answer correctly, the more you win. And you redeem those tickets for authentic NFL signed gear and collectibles. So go right now, Apple app or Google Play Store. Download the free BettorCast app. Must be at least 18 years old to play. All right, let's look at some baseball picks before we get to some college football talk. Baseball picks. I'll be honest, I have none. I'm not going to force anything here, but I'm going to let you have the floor here because I know you got a couple picks. So, what do you got for one of your best bets tonight?
Yeah, so we'll start with the Marlins money line, and you could parlay either of these as well. The second one, I will say, I do have the Rockies run line or over team total
Okay.
4.5. So if you want to parlay Marlins money line minus 130 on DraftKings, Colorado Rockies over 4.5 runs. So the Marlins play the Mets tonight. They split that weird doubleheader yesterday that included Steve Cohen, Mets owner, coming out and apologizing to a team in the middle of a playoff race in their division for not having their field prepared, despite having like all this time post hurricane. And I mentioned this too on the MLB DFS podcast on Fantasy Alarm that the New York Yankees play the day game on Monday in New York.
Yeah.
A couple boroughs away. Face the same hurricane that they did in Queens, right? The Bronx and the Queens are not that far apart. Like in terms of like you guys didn't get a different hurricane.
Yeah.
Like the Mets had
I think the Phillies played at home too that day.
So dude, it's very weird scene. So the Marlins played their doubleheader yesterday. They lose the first game. They play the second game. They win. So they are now tied with the Cubs for the final wild card spot after the Cubs have collapsed in each of the last two games.
Yeah.
And the Marlins actually own the tiebreaker. And they send Jesus Luzardo to the mound tonight, who has been one of their best pitchers this year. And he looked really good against the Mets earlier in the year, 5 2/3 scoreless baseball. And he has been very up and down this year. He was really good to start. He hit a big time rut. But when you look at his last few starts, 6 scoreless against Atlanta, 5 innings, 3 earned against Milwaukee, both playoff teams, beat the Dodgers a couple starts before that, beat 6 scoreless against Tampa. 4 of his last 5 starts, he's really come into form. And the Mets there's a lot of adversity on this team. There's been a lot of controversy with the Mets about work ethic, and players that they've traded have come out and said that they're not hardworking stars in terms of Alonso and Lindor. And, outside of home runs, they've been really bad. And you look at the lineup for the Mets, outside of Alonso and Lindor, they don't hit lefties well at all. And they have a bunch of lefties in their lineup. Luzardo has shut down lefties. And I like the Marlins lineup against left-handed pitching. When you look at the top of their lineup, Soler, Josh Bell, Jake Berger, all hit lefties extremely well. The Mets are sending David Peterson to the mound tonight, who really struggles against righties. He's even really struggled against lefties this year. Not that that matters all that much. The Marlins only have one lefty in their lineup, but they're sending a lineup out there with 8 righties, and that's been Peterson's Achilles heel. So I like the Marlins money line. And then, the second leg of that, I kind of like the Rockies to score a bunch of runs tonight. And that's not something we're accustomed to saying out loud. Like, usually just keep that to yourself, especially when it's the Rockies. But this game is being played in Coors Field. And, if you want to play anything to do with the Dodgers, by all means, play anything to do with the Dodgers. They're facing Chris Flexen. They have 7 implied runs. But the Dodgers aren't playing for anything. Like, their division's locked up. They're sending their lineup out and they're, positioning themselves for the postseason, but they're sending Ryan Yarbrough out to the mound. And although Ryan Yarbrough has had some success, the Rockies offense has been pretty good lately, and 4.5 implied runs for Coors Field is low. I actually see implied totals up near 5 for Colorado and on some projection sites. And you look at the top of the lineup, Charlie Blackmon's been good against lefties this year, despite being a lefty. And Ryan Yarbrough has actually struggled against lefties lately. 402 WOBA allowed. Ezekiel Tovar has a 200 ISO against lefties. Brendan Rodgers has been mashing baseballs, hitting over 400 his last 10 games. And Nolan Jones has been, what an awful trade Cleveland made, because they traded Nolan Jones for a guy who's hit like 215 at AAA this year. Joke's on you. I like Colorado quite a bit tonight to put up a bunch of runs, and you always get these big performances from bad teams late in years when it doesn't matter. So I like the Marlins money line tonight, and I like the Rockies to score north of 4.5 runs, and that's all I got, Servo. But I'm pretty confident in both those bets.
Yeah, listen, the Marlins pick, it's profitable to bet on these, fringe, like right in the race wild card teams that just need wins. It's simple as that. They need to win today to stay alive and, hold serve against other teams that win. So I can fully get behind that. And yeah, the Rockies pick, Ryan Yarbrough probably won't be in the Dodgers rotation in the playoffs. I feel like they're, he's better as like a long reliever guy. They have other options, and I feel like this is one of those instances, like at end of the season, let's throw up out there for a start, see what he has. But I feel like in the postseason, he's going to be used in the bullpen. And as a just kind of pulling up his splits here, I feel like he's been better as a reliever this year than as a starter. He has been in overall like this in his career when he was with the Rays, when he was with the Royals. But I'm looking at the wrong thing. Sorry about that. I do see that he has he's allowing better batting average, some better numbers against hitters when he is a starter as compared to a reliever. But in general, you get the Rockies in Coors, so I can get behind that.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying Ryan Yarbrough he's actually been semi-decent with the Dodgers. It's just you put him in Coors, and also you think about the way things are shaking out for the Dodgers. They have 98 wins. The playoffs start in next week, and you've already seen teams not using their primary relievers
exactly
and primary starters for length because they're setting them up for full strength for the postseason. So I think the Rockies I know the Dodgers are sending out their A lineup, but I think that we're going to get a Rockies offense against tier 2 of the Dodgers pitching staff.
All right. I'll lean on you because I gave out the Pirates money line last night because they're playing the Phillies team that just
Oh,
clinched a
dude.
playoff spot, and I thought they'd be tanking. And they did send out a lineup besides basically Harper and Stott that was kind of like their B or C level lineup, and they ended up winning. Harper hit a home run late to give them the win.
Pittsburgh had a big lead
Yeah, they had
early,
like a
didn't Pittsburgh
5-0
was up
lead.
like 5-0,
Should have
dude.
just thrown out the first 5 innings and not the money line, but
It was funny because I saw that in a couple places. Like, I saw a lot of people talking up teams against teams that clinch because they were
yeah.
out partying or whatever. I mean, they're just playing. Like, Philly's lineup tonight is kind of
I haven't seen it, but yeah, I mean, I don't expect them to
it's
really send out a lot of guys. Give
well, they
guys
don't need
rest
to,
before the
right?
playoffs. Yeah, I mean,
Right. And so I saw that in a couple places, and I saw 5-0 Pittsburgh, and then I saw 5-5 Philly. I was like, oh, or 5-5. I was like, oh no,
yeah. Then
Pittsburgh beat Pittsburgh, and
Harper comes in and hits a home run. So,
yeah.
yeah. Well, I'll stay away, but I'll back your picks for baseball tonight.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch gears back to football. And if you think you know college football, then prove it. Prove it, James. Prove it. Because you can compete against me in Servo 7 over on BettorEdge. It's a college football totals competition this weekend and every weekend, powered by BettorEdge. You make the most correct picks in this free competition, and you get paid out. Enter by signing up on BettorEdge right now. Go to bettoredge.com/better, BETTOR. Use promo code BETTER, BETTOR, to get $20 when you sign up and verify. No deposit required to enter this. There's about 20 or so games that you kind of pick. 7 of them, just over-unders, no spreads, no winners, just over-under these game totals. I'll pat myself on the back. I tied for first in this competition last week, so you could beat me in this, but I'll help you out right now. I'll give you a pick that I'm going with in this contest, and you can go with 2, or you could fade me. But I'm going with LSU-Ole Miss, one of the big games this weekend. I'm going with the over 63 that's over on BettorEdge right now. I will say that the current total at some sports books, it's been bet up over at 67 and a half. So you can get that 63 on BettorEdge. I think it's a nice value there in this BettorEdge contest. But the LSU offense is rolling right now with Jaden Daniels at quarterback, 2 NFL caliber receivers that he's throwing to. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas have been lighting it up. All 4 LSU games have hit the over so far this year with that offense, averaging 42 points per game too. LSU's defense is also just a slight worry right now. They just allowed 31 points to Arkansas last week. Also gave up 45 in that opener against Florida State. Those are the only 2 real, teams and offenses that they've faced, and it's been, the defense has not proven that they can kind of shut teams down. So it looks like a lot of LSU games are going to be on the higher scoring edge of things when you consider their really good offense. And the Ole Miss offense, only put up 10 points on the road against Alabama last week, but I think they're going to bounce back now at home for this game, again, against this shaky LSU defense. The game prior to last week against Bama, Lane Kiffin's offense put up 48 against Georgia Tech. They put up 37 against Tulane the game prior on the road too in that one. I think the Rebels get back on it. They're starting to get a lot of their key offensive players healthy too. Zachary Franklin, really good transfer receiver, has been out, but he's now back. Trey Harris has been, really good to start the season, was hurt. Now he's back. Really good tight end, Caden Priestcorn. Their stud running back, Quinshawn Judkins. All of them kind of been battling injuries early in the season, but they're all getting healthy now, all back in the mix. So I think the Ole Miss offense is going to start clicking more. So yeah, give me the over in this game over on BettorEdge. You get the 63 over for that one. All right,
6-7 last week, huh, Servo? Oh,
yeah.
Let's go. Or 6-7, is that what you said? Or you were tied for first? What was the?
I was tied for first. I think I think I went 6-1 with the 7 games. But me and I forget who else I tied with, but yeah, we split the pot last week. A couple weeks ago, our producer Adam Bernard won the contest. So listen,
Lucky.
I've before last week
Lucky.
I had not been performing well. Yeah, Bernard got lucky. I had not been performing well, so it's not like I'm winning this every week. But there's always a chance. Just take some over unders. You can get lucky. All All right, let's touch on a few more games because I got some interesting spots I want to give you guys.
Yeah, let's dive into the Dabo Sweeney led Clemson Tigers versus Syracuse here. What the Syracuse Orange taking on Clemson. Orange versus Orange here,
I
Servo.
know.
Two questions. Who's more orange and who do you got?
I think the orange are more orange.
Orange or more orange, agreed. I agree.
Yeah, you can see the shades of orange there.
True. Way more deeper, definitely deeper orange there.
Yeah. I like Syracuse in this one. Give me Syracuse in the points. 6.5 is the spread there. I like Hughes to keep it close here. Clemson, it's going to be interesting how they kind of rebound after losing in overtime. A tough game last week against Florida State, where if they win that game, they're all of a sudden back in like the college football playoff picture, but it's going to be tough now. So I'm wondering how they kind of respond. And Syracuse has started out this season strong, 4-0. Now, 3-1 against the spread as well. They have yet to face a team like Clemson, so that is kind of in the back of your mind. But Clemson versus Syracuse, this matchup, this rivalry matchup, I guess you want to call it, has been very close recently. 4 of the last 6 games between these teams has been decided by 6 points or fewer. Last year, it was a 6-point win for Clemson at home for Clemson. Syracuse came in, kept it tight. Really pushed them. 2 years ago at Syracuse, it was a 17-14 final, so only a 3-point margin there. With this same coaching staff, with this same quarterback, Garrett Schrader back, I think they're going to be motivated to try to pull this win out. Clemson's defense had trouble with a dual threat quarterback in that first game of the year against Duke. Riley Leonard ran for a long touchdown, had 98 yards, orchestrated that win. Now they got to face another really good dual threat in Garrett Schrader, who can almost ran for 200 yards 2 weeks ago. Is really good on the ground. Had 70 plus rushing yards and a touchdown last year in this matchup. And then the other side, Clemson's offense. They bring in TCU's OC Garrett Riley to kind of really try to improve their offensive flow and really improve things from last year. But it just hasn't really come to fruition yet. They're still kind of force-feeding the ball to their main guy, Will Shipley, the running back. But outside of him, they don't have a lot of playmakers. The receivers have not stepped up. They really haven't gelled into like that high-tempo, high-scoring offense that we saw with TCU last year. It's really been just kind of a slog at times, and they're just leaning on Shipley as like a kind of do-it-all guy right now. So I think Syracuse can really, if they can bottle up Shipley, they're going to keep this one close. And I think the 6.5 spread, it's obviously risky because Clemson is a tier above Syracuse, but I just think at home, Syracuse is going to come in and really keep this one close.
Syracuse, the football school now, Servo, not the basketball school.
Apparently, yeah. Jim Boeheim is out, so
right now, yep.
Well, maybe
Jim
they've been terrible at basketball lately, though. So
sure. Someone who's not terrible at football, SEC schools, Georgia versus Auburn here. What do you got in this game, Servo?
Yeah, give me Georgia to cover the spread here as favorites. 14-point spread. I got that on DraftKings, minus 112. It's about, get 14.5 somewhere, but I just think it's going to be like a 3-score win for Georgia here, even though it's on the road at Auburn. Auburn's offense has been really ugly to watch at times, and it's been rough because they had Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford both just underperforming at quarterback. Only scored 10 points last week against Texas A&M, and I think Georgia's a better team than Texas A&M, but their defense is also better than Texas A&M. And I just that was their first test of the year too for Auburn, and they lost by 17 to Texas A&M. Failed to cover as a double-digit underdog in that spot. I'm not really scared of, this Georgia team going on the road at Auburn. I think they're going to handle their business. They are actually, surprisingly, the 2-time reigning national champs have yet to cover a spread this season through 4 games. They're 0-4 against the spread. That's going to change this week. I think this is going to be positive regression for them to come out here, win and cover easily, because I look at this Auburn team. I mentioned their struggles. They also struggled to beat Cal early this season. Cal is not a good team, and they're 1-3 against the spread is Auburn. So Give me Georgia to win comfortably here.
Number 1 team in the country, 0-4 against the spread.
Right? Kind of crazy.
Very interesting.
Michigan too, by the way. Has not covered a spread so far this year, but also like a top 4 team.
Interesting things going on in the college football landscape. Also in the college football landscape, we have multiple Iowa schools on the next few games. Iowa State versus Oklahoma, and I hear nothing good about Iowa, so I'm very excited to hear your last pick. Just a little teaser there, but Iowa State taking on Oklahoma. What do we got here, Servo?
James, is this heaven? No, it's Iowa.
Yeah.
Do you know what that's from, or are you
I think that's Kevin Costner, right? He built Dreams?
Field of Dreams. There you go.
Yeah. Got it. Nailed it.
This is Iowa. I'll get to the Iowa game in a sec, but give me Iowa State as underdogs here. Going against Oklahoma. This is a huge classic look ahead spot for Oklahoma. Next week, they got the Red River rivalry game against Texas. That is a marquee game. The winner of that is probably going to be the favorites to win the Big 12 and go on to the college football playoff. And this is a look ahead for Oklahoma. I just can't look past it because last year, Oklahoma lost to Texas. It was a bad year, down year for Oklahoma, but they lost that rivalry game 49-0 last year. They're looking for revenge, but that's next week. This week they got to deal with Iowa State. And under head coach Matt Campbell, Iowa State has been excellent against the spread as an underdog. 12-3 against the spread as an underdog under Campbell, covering by an average margin of 8 points per game too. So they're not just barely covering here. Also as an underdog of 17 points or more, which they are this week, Campbell is 6-0 against the spread in that spot. So this is a great. It's been really profitable to back Iowa State as an underdog in recent seasons, even though their teams haven't been that great. Matt Campbell gets his teams up for this, and Oklahoma's due for some against the spread regression themselves. They're 4-0 against the spread to start the season. And I mentioned this is just a classic, look ahead to Texas next week. And real quick, a couple notes on that. The Oklahoma 4-13 against the spread as a home favorite the week before they play Texas, and that's that's in the past like 25 years. So this is they've looked ahead plenty to Texas in this spot, and Iowa State gets the matchup here. So yeah, give me the Cyclones. It's been really rough to see, like, to watch Iowa State early this season. They haven't been great, but I just think this is a spot where they can keep it close enough this is a classic. Maybe we get a late touchdown or something to cover the spread.
Who kicked wasn't there a field goal in the NFL like 2 weeks ago that
Sean McVay, with the Rams.
The McVay backdoor cover at the end. Let's get one of those. All right, so our last pick here, Servo, and I'm interested in this one. We have Iowa taking on Michigan State. I know little about college football, but what I do know is Kirk Ferentz' son isn't he the offensive coordinator at Iowa?
Brian
and isn't
Ferentz.
Their offense like absolutely atrocious year in, year out? And Kirk Ferentz refuses to fire his son?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm interested in the pick here. What do we got?
Well, so real quick
here?
on that, a little behind the scenes. I think I've touched on this earlier this year, but their offense has been so bad, and especially last year.
So I've heard.
Their offensive coordinator, Brian Ferentz, if you follow college football, you know this. He now has an addendum to his contract where his teams, Iowa this year, has to average at least, I think it's 25 points per game for the whole season. And they also have to, I think, win a certain amount of games. But specifically, the offense needs to average at least 25 points per game, or he gets fired at the end of the season.
He's cooked?
Well, they got shut out last week against Penn State, and they're trending towards not averaging that. But with that in mind, games like this where they're favored by double digits against the Michigan State team that's kind of falling apart, this is a spot where they can boost that average up and take advantage. As bad as their offense is, this could be a spot where they do it. But honestly, this is more of a fade of Michigan State
Okay.
because you may have also heard their head coach, Mel Tucker, he's been involved in a sexual harassment scandal, just got fired this week, but he's been suspended these past 2 games. And these last 2 games with the interim coach, Harlan Bennett, taking over for Tucker, Michigan State has lost by a combined score of 72-16 against Washington and Maryland, failed to cover as underdogs in both those games. And I just think it's not going to go much better this time on the road at Iowa. There's a situation where, so in college, you can choose to, after 4 games played, you can choose to redshirt to be eligible for the next season and preserve your college eligibility. There hasn't been any official reports, but there's been some kind of behind the scenes rumors that we might have some players, now that 4 games have been played, now that Mel Tucker has officially been fired, maybe choosing to sit out the rest of the year and redshirt, enter the transfer portal. So that's kind of the behind the scenes to kind of keep in mind. But either way, I mean, again, 16 points combined over the past 2 games, and their defense has allowed 72 points over these past 2. So I look at Iowa, obviously just got shut out by Penn State, but I do think this is a rebound. They're 2-1 against the spread as favorites this year. That includes a 31-point win over Western Michigan as 28.5-point favorites in that. So they covered big spread there. I think they can do it again here. 12.5, it's kind of like one of those in-between numbers. You need them to win basically by 2 touchdowns. But I think they can do it, even though it is a low total at 36.5. I just don't see Michigan State scoring much against a really good Iowa defense that, I know Penn State put up 31 last week in this spot, but Penn State's a tier above Iowa, and Iowa is probably like 2 tiers above Michigan State. So give me the Hawkeyes to cover here.
Let's go, Brian Ferentz. You're putting up numbers here, buddy. Let's go.
Yeah, he's trying not to get fired,
Well, I mean,
aren't we all?
Yeah, I mean, ain't that the truth? And also, fired by his dad. At the end of the day, right. I mean, not technically by his dad, but his dad. They're probably like, all right, you're gonna have to do you're gonna have to do it, Kirk.
All right. So those are college football picks. Again, I have a couple more bets in an article form that you can get with the All Pro subscription over at Fantasy Alarm. That'll be coming out a little bit later tonight, so you can check out some picks made for Florida, Kentucky, a good game there, and USC, Colorado. Not shying away from Deion Sanders' team. Making a pick for USC, Colorado in that article as well. Real quick, just got a comment here from Ethan Quimby chiming in here. His lock of the night, and he says he's currently 2-0 on this show, I guess, giving out picks here. I do remember him chiming in, but I don't remember those exact picks. But A.J. Dillon, over 8.5 rushing attempts. Currently 8-game streak of 9+ carries, and he thinks it continues with Jones coming off the injury. Lock it in. Listen, yeah, if Jones is active, then I don't see them handling him double-digit touches right off the bat. I mean, maybe he barely reaches that, but I do think it's going to be split between him and Dillon. So there could be value there on Dillon's rushing attempts with just kind of the mindset that Jones is coming back. But yeah, I'd be interested in that. Good call on that, Ethan. All right, we got to wrap up here, but appreciate everyone tuning in here on a Thursday afternoon. Good luck with all your bets tonight. Coming up right after us, by the way, we got the Better Baseball MLB DFS live show with James Grande and John and Pemba over on Fantasy Alarm and Bettor Sports Network YouTubes. Over on Fantasy Alarm YouTube at 7 p.m. Eastern. Check out the Thursday night game day preview with John and Pemba and Andrew Cooper, and 7 p.m. Eastern on Bettor Sports Network YouTube. We got High Stakes Fantasy Football Show with Eric Balkman. So keep it locked here on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm all night long to get your baseball and your football DFS and fantasy and bets in for tonight's games. All right, James, good stuff here, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate you joining. Well, hopefully all of our bets cash tonight. I'll be rooting for the Marlins. I'll tell you that much.
Let's go.
All right, guys. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. See you then.
Bettor Sports Betting on the Bettor Sports Network.